First day at Comic Con 2017, and I am sat down with the producers and the director of the new Netflix original film, Death Note. All right, gents. Thank you for joining us here at the Fandango space, isn't it? How impressive is this?
Very impressive.
Fandango have done a pretty good job, haven't they? I'll give them that one. Death Note. You're bringing it to life. You're bringing it into this new realm, and not only in a new realm, you're bringing it to Netflix. With such a rich source material, what responsibilities did you guys have to bring to the table when it comes to turning it from its manga with its huge fan base to now bringing it to the Netflix?
Well, I think one of the most challenging things about it is, taking something like you said that's there's quite a few volumes of material to work with from the original source material, and it's about trying to figure out what the core story is that we're telling, and how to condense that into a movie form, and most importantly, how to make it as a standalone kind of thing, so that even though I think we saw this as a franchise with sequels and stuff,
nice.
It was very important that the movie be able to stand alone, by itself as well.
Got it. So when it comes to, obviously, you've got, like we said with the comics, you have so many volumes that you could have chosen from. Do you choose bits and bobs from each one in order to condense it down into that movie format?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what we did, is we kind of said, okay, like, because this is the origin story, what aspect of this, gets our story across, and that really meant just basically 2 or 3 volumes, of the series, like picking little story bits here and there, but most importantly is trying to, look at it, because we knew a lot of things were going to change, especially because we've reset it into, Seattle
now.
Which obviously, informs a lot of different changes. But, the main thing was trying to make sure that the thematic elements and everything crossed over in that kind of way.
And you guys, you had quite a close relationship with the writers of the original. I'm not going to try and pronounce their names because I'll butcher it, so I'm going to hope you
Oba-sensei and Obata-sensei.
Okay, so see what I'm saying? If I would have had an opportunity to try and pronounce their names, I would have absolutely butchered it. But having those, obviously, alongside of you, whilst you're writing this, whilst you're adapting it, was it helpful to kind of stick to the core meanings and emotions when it came to producing and writing the copy and the script?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we had a great communication and collaboration with the senseis, and there are things that we wanted to localize. Adam had a particular vision, and there's certain things that we changed with the characters, but the senseis were so open to that. They wanted to see what Adam could do with the great source material and make it his own. So they were very fluid, but there are times that they say, oh, this is really a core principle of Death Note, and we want to keep it that. And Adam's like, yeah, no, they're right. So it was a very collaborative effort.
So they were able to tell you guys, like, cool, here's the license that you guys have, but we want to make sure that this one particular part kind of stays true to its character, or stays true to the story, stays true to the origins, right?
Yes.
So then how, Willem Dafoe as Ryuk, how did you manage to get that? What was Willem Dafoe? How was he the character for you?
Well, I mean, he was absolutely the first choice, from the get-go. And, whenever you're looking for, like to cast different actors in different parts, you're always looking for somebody who can just kind of fluidly, kind of embody that role. Yeah. And, that character in itself, I think, really comes from the laugh, first and foremost.
Yes.
And so the first time that we actually recorded with Willem, I remember like one of the first things we did was we kind of just did a couple different laughs and stuff, and I think it was one of those things where, because, when you're shooting a movie like this, you're always kind of, guessing how it's going to be in the back end. And it's not until you actually have him there and have him recording this stuff. And we did motion capture with him as well. So
nice.
that,
okay.
It actually is his facial expressions and stuff.
Because he has quite an expressional face,
well, exactly.
doesn't he, Willem Dafoe?
Well, he does, yeah. And he really is amazing. He's like one of these guys that, like, you can just leave the mic open and he'll give you like 15 different versions, and all of them are really cool in their own different way. And
you mentioned when it came to the casting as well, you actually traveled over to China, you traveled to Korea, and you tried to find these different actors from all different types of backgrounds. And I read that you said the characters of Death Note, they're not racially based, they're culturally based. So what's the difference, would you guys consider, between the two? I believe you said that actually in an interview.
Right. I mean, it was culturally based in terms of, there are certain core principles of Death Note, which I think in a different setting, in an American setting, it has a different meaning, right? We're still treading the line of what's considered morally, gray, what's black and white, the perception of what's good, what we perceive as good is different from what, Japan or other countries might perceive as good. So I think when you adapt a character into an American cultural setting, there's different values and different actions. And also, in a movie setting, you have to give characters arc. So I think those are the very differences from a manga and a in a movie
and
adaptation.
then bringing it to the movie itself. Because like you say, you have volumes upon volumes when you go into the manga, and you've just got the character arcs for days. But now you only have 2 hours. Was the runtime of the movie about 2 hours in order to make that arc happen? So when it came to with the kids have obviously got such characters that need to embody. Was there any did they get to speak to the writers? Did they get to have that one-on-one time with them? Did they get to have that moment to really embody their character?
Well, no, I mean, when it came to working with them, we really did treat it as a totally fresh thing because, going into this, the movie had already been adapted in a very literal way in Japan, from the original source material. The anime is a very faithful adaptation to the manga. And so from the very get-go, we had a lot of discussions about what is the carryover from the manga and all those things. But really at the end of the day, I tried to influence them to take the characters in their own directions, to kind of do their own things with it. And, certain things that we checked in with the creators of it, especially with L, because, one of their things is that they definitely wanted to make sure that L was still really weird,
Because that's quite a character. L is quite the character.
Exactly.
So,
But it was cool because they still left it open to interpretation of what weird really means, there are certain aspects about that they wanted to make sure that we weren't going in the wrong direction with. But, ultimately, the way that we did L in this version is we kind of gave him a bit more of a different background that I think is, kind of reflective of sort of, clandestine, underground American, government activities and things. And so he comes from a different background and he is a different character, but at the same time, he still has those traits. We've just fleshed them out in a different way.
So these new the adapted characters that you guys are now using, not only are they staying true to their core characters themselves, but they're also becoming very relatable to this American audience that they're going to be coming out for at the same time. So the American audience can still sit there and be like, oh, the fans can be like, this is the manga that I love, this is the anime that I loved, and then people who maybe aren't so fans can still relate and connect to the cast and the crew and the people going on.
Exactly.
So let's have some fun. We're at Comic-Con. What are you guys most excited for? Let's go down the line. Roy, start us off.
Well, I'm excited to see the DC materials.
Yeah, that's the most exciting. What are you, at Justice League? Who's your favourite? Flash? Superman?
Well, I want to see what they do with Batman, if they do any type of announcement.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, I mean, look, Comic-Con is great. It's always been fantastic. But for me, I'm actually excited to see how the fans are going to react to the film. This is our first time we actually get to show it to our fan base.
Nice.
So that's kind of what I'm really excited about.
That's going to be your I mean, you're kind of a legend here at
Comic
Comic-Con. Just saying, you've only been here a couple times.
But it never gets old.
It never gets old. Different every year, I'm
Yes.
sure, right? And how about yourself, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, same thing, but I'm also looking forward to trying to get into that Twin Peaks thing coming up on Saturday. Usually when I come here...
Trying to get into it? You don't get they don't just lay out the red carpet for you?
Well, my assistant's working on it.
You're work a little bit harder.
Yeah. No, but I'm a big Twin Peaks fan, and usually whenever I come to Comic-Con, I'm in the middle of doing a movie, so I'm usually here for a day, and then I have to fly back to set. This is the first year that after kind of the press stuff, which we have today, is done, then I actually have some time to hang out
and actually be a fan.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's what people forget. They forget, although you guys are the creators and obviously the masterminds behind this stuff, you guys are little fanboys too. You're fanboys too at the same time, aren't you?
Absolutely.
So when it comes down to it, I mean, obviously, thank you for joining us here at Fandango as well. But one last thing, real quick. You being you're a horror fanatic, clearly. Why? Because I'm not gonna lie to you, horror films scare the shit out of me. When I got told that I was doing Death Note, I was like, oh great, I'm gonna sit there saying bad's gonna happen. So when it comes to your horror films, which has been your favourite? Or your most scary? Which has been the one that really stayed true to you?
In terms of movies that have come out or ones that I've made?
Every horror movie.
Well,
just all the horrors that you've seen.
I'm really old school, so for me it's The Shining and Texas Chainsaw Massacre to me kind of embody everything I like. One has the ghost stuff and the other has sort of the just intense, almost
Violence
experimental
and
like
blood.
vibe to it. Yeah, exactly. So, I think between those two, those kind of embody horror for me.
I feel like the Death Note might have a nice mix between the two of those then,
Well,
to a
it does
point.
have
You've got like that
different vibes of I mean,
paranormal era type of scenario, but then at the same time, hopefully there's going to be, well, in the trailer just dropped, you've got people jumping off a building.
Well, that's the fun thing about Death Note is that it defies pretty much any kind of genre. You can't really pigeonhole it into one thing.
Yep.
It does have like horror elements to it, but it's definitely not a horror film. For me, it's one where, like the moments with Ryuk and kind of playing that creepiness, I kind of almost played it as though it was a horror movie in those moments, but it really transcends that because it's much more of a thriller. I think overall it has a romance story. There's even a musical moment in the film, you could say. It's a low-key musical moment. So it really has pretty much every genre that you can think of in it, And I think that's what defines me as a filmmaker as well, is that I'm somebody who takes like the kind of genre conventions and twists them around. That's something I like to play with, and this movie's kind of the culmination of that for me.
I'm looking forward to it, man. I mean, with the stuff that you've done, Blair Witch, the VHS movies, I mean, it's now giving you and you guys, all three of you, is giving you that mantle of Death Note. I honestly feel like it couldn't be in better hands. So I'm super excited for it, guys. And like I said, thank you again for joining us down at the Fandango stage. Go and enjoy your Comic-Con, gents.